perros, ¿cómo están? Estamos en un nuevo gameplay aquí de Stanley para ver, es de la oficina, es un juego que de pronto les va a gustar o de pronto no, está gratis en Steam, salió gratis, este era pagando y todo, pero quiero ver cómo les gusta, a ver si les gusta, si no, quieren que suba más videos sobre esto, muy chimba y todo. eh, es de un man que se queda solo en la oficina y está en busca de respuestas y demás. Vamos a ver, démosle. Y comenzar. Comencémosla, papá. ¿Cómo está, gente?
This
Espero
is
que
the
esté
story
bien.
of a man named
Es una
Stanley.
historia de un llamado Stanley.
Stanley worked for a company.
Bueno, él le gustaba prácticamente. Le gustaba que estar en la oficina y solamente tecleaba números y teclas y hasta que un día dejó de recibir órdenes. Dejó de recibir órdenes y ya no pudo más teclear ni escribir ni nada de esas cosas por el estilo. Todo el mundo se fue, o sea, lo dejaron solo prácticamente. El man era muy comprometido con su trabajo, pareciera que naciera para eso, ¿sí? Y todo el mundo se fue y
All of
está
his
en busca de
co-workers were
respuestas.
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Vamos a ver, es que todo el mundo se fue, es que son algo rupletas, weón. Prácticamente no puedo nada, no puedo ni coger el pocillo, ni esto, nada. Vamos por aquí.
When Stanley came to
Bueno,
a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
entró a la puerta izquierda, supuestamente. Pero no le vamos a hacer caso, vamos por la derecha.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Sí, caso. Vean, todo el mundo se fue, ahí está. Vean. Ahí está.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Supuestamente apreciando todo cual apreciando. Es que bueno, recuerdos.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Toma una primera puerta a la izquierda. ¿Será que le hacemos caso? Dice, hagámosle caso a ver qué.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Ya, pues. Esa creo que la
Yet there
sala
was
de
not a
reuniones.
single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Bueno, toca ir a la sala. A la sala del jefe, bueno, obviamente. A ver si está, quién está, si el jefe está. Porque este man está en busca de respuestas, pero vamos
Coming
para
to a
abajo.
staircase,
Dice,
Stanley
llegan
walked
acá,
upstairs to his
hacia
boss's
arriba, pero
office.
no, vamos para arriba, vamos para abajo, a ver qué pasa. A ver qué pasa. Esto no se ve de terror, weón.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
¿Qué correos o qué? ¿Qué es esto? No, o sea, Alguien que haya jugado esto entiende, no sé. Dios mío, escríbanme en los comentarios ahí abajo a ver qué. Y otra vez empezó lo mismo. Toca hacerle caso a ver qué.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Prácticamente uno pierde si no le hace caso.
When
O algo
Stanley
así.
came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Entremos. Vamos a ver qué, vamos a hacerle caso. Vamos a
Yet
ver.
there was not a single person here either. Feeling
Otra
a
vez
wave
empezó
of
lo mismo.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Pues en la oficina del jefe. No había nadie tampoco. Obviamente no haber nadie.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
¿Qué?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
¿Y por qué?
2845.
Ah, ok, guys. Ah, bueno, acá cagué, marica. Escribamos cualquier número. Tú.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked
sí,
in,
lo aprendí.
and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Vea, pues. Se cerraron las puertas. Cogemos. Joder. Qué paila esto. Esto está re loquito este jueguito. Ahora bien.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Dice que camine adelante. ¿Dónde instalaciones? ¿Qué es esto?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Esto parece los de X-Men en el domo ese. Uy, no, está real o bien. Las cámaras, prendamos las cámaras a ver qué.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
O sea, qué trabajo, esto es un trabajo de oficina que baila. Mis respetos a todos los que trabajan en trabajos de oficina, ¿para qué? Son muy cracks. Pero deben estar estresados
This
o algo
mind
así.
control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Qué paila.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Bueno chicos, comenten si les gustó el video, denle un me gusta, si quieren que saque más cosas sobre esto. eh, la verdad está muy loco, deberían descargárselo. Está es chimba, la verdad chimba. Es de mi gusto también, lo vuelve uno como loco ahí, uno tiene que estar muy concentrado leyendo y todo. Compartan el video. Si les gusta, denle me gusta y comenten lo que opinan sobre este juego. Es que es como que la cabeza, como que boom, uno no sabe qué está pasando y qué puede pasar al final. Comenten si les gustaría saber qué les gustaría que pasara al final, las decisiones que debí tomar o algo así. ¿Ok? Hasta luego, chicos, todo bien. Luego, copas.